All right, guys. So we're gonna get back into our Penguin Bear program, and uh, right now we've got the timer working, the score updating. The penguins are kind of moving around, and then when the bear roars, you can scare them. We get score, and the timer goes down. You can notice I'm running on my home computer now because there's not nearly as much like screen tearing and things like that, which is kind of nice, right? And so we can see, okay, we go around. One thing, we might still want to add in is like the penguins waddling. Right now they just kind of slide on the ice instead of kind of like waddling a little bit. But that's okay. That's all in effect we could add in later. This timer going to -11 is not something that we want to happen. So the first thing we're going to add in today is basically an end to the game, an ending condition that will make it end whenever this timer is 0. Okay. So just to recall, we had that timer variable saved in a time remaining here, right? And I could change this for testing purposes. Actually, today I'm going to just change this to 10, so that when we start, it automatically counts down to 9, 8, 7, and so on. And this way, when we're starting the score, and it's going to start from time remaining -1 and display that. As of right now, the timer initial variable is set to 10, but we could actually make it so that we could add in a little timer text and just set the value of timer text equal to timer, and then add in time remaining here. And this way, it actually starts at 10 instead of 30 there. So that's just something we can do. The other thing is we kind of, if we add this character select back in, so if we re-enable it, you'll see, the timer was already down to 5 seconds, right? So this is not what we want. We want the timer to start once. See, if I wait a little bit, I don't want the timer to start yet. And the timer already started with 4 seconds. So we want to disable the timer to start. If you want to, since we're doing this from home right now, you can pause the video and try and implement this yourself using a Boolean variable. And then if you get it working, you can resume the video, and you can see if you did it the same way that I did it. So if you want to give that a try, now go for it. All right, and if you just want to see me do it and you can follow along, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another Boolean variable into my scene, and I'm going to call it game started. And we'll make this Boolean, and we'll set it to false. All right, and so now now that I have that variable down here, I'm going to go to character select, and I'm going to say in here after they select the character, and only after they select the character. So after this happens, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to assign that variable a new value after we move and orient to the start and delay for this 0.25 seconds. Then I'm going to say game started equals true. Right? Now what I'm going to do here is I'm only going to do this event if game started. So if the game started, then we're going to subtract 1 from the time and update the timer. Okay. So let's see if that fixed it. So now let's wait a couple seconds. And now you can see the timer didn't start until we were actually in play here. Okay. So yeah, that is how we can do something like that. So now we have a game start condition, and now we also want a game end condition. And so similarly, actually, I'll do this again. So if you want to try and pause the video here and see if you can get it so that when the timer hits 0, after they pick their character, when the timer hits 0, that you stop the timer at 0 and actually stop the movement of the player as well as the penguin. Right? And then I'll show you guys how to do that too. All right, so go ahead and stop it if you'd like to try it on your own. And then if you want to just see how I did it, you can just keep watching. So I'm going to add in another Boolean property for, let's call it time up. And we'll set it to false to begin with. And then in here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another if statement in here. And so here, what I'm going to do, I can't check the variable time up because time up isn't updated yet. Time up is going to be a variable that I use elsewhere. So what I have to do is I have to check, is time remaining, which is a whole number, if that equals 0. So if time remaining is 0, that means I've hit the end. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this variable time up to be true. All right. Now, you'll see that this actually doesn't work like I wanted it to. It still counts down to negative. This variable time up was true, but I never actually use it anywhere. Right? So it starts out as false. And so I need to also add in if game started and time up is not true. Once time up gets set to true, then it will stop counting down. So this little block right here will end the code. So then I can say brown, see, zoom up, and then the timer stops at 0. Okay, but I can still move around and I can still play and I can still implement the score. And so at this point, we want a game over condition to happen so that the player can no longer do anything once the time is up. All right, and so I can use this this same not time up variable here and have it just add this in here to the key press listeners. So if not time up, and then if the keys are these, and I can, before I drag that in, I'm going to actually copy this down into here. All right, and so I'll put this in the first block there. I'll put this in the first block there. And so now when I'm able to move, I'm able to score, penguin runs around, but as soon as the timer hits 0, I can no longer move the bear. I can't hit space, WA. Now the penguins still move around, but the game is over. Okay, so I've disabled user input for that time. Okay. So now what we want to happen is we want the penguins to also stop. So right now they are going to continuously repeat this. So what we want to do is we want to set this while not time up. Right? And then this will also cause the penguins to stop moving after. All right, and as you can see, this one stopped moving, the rest of them stopped moving, and the game is frozen at this point. Okay. And so just adding that one property in, that can actually allow us to control a bunch of different stuff. Okay, so we have a losing condition now, or basically a game end condition, maybe not necessarily losing condition. But let's go ahead and tell the user, let's maybe report that, hey, the game's over and this was your score. So what we want to do now is actually create another scene function, or add a scene procedure, sorry, that is game end, or maybe game over. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my scene and I'm going to, just where I went over to my character select, I'm going to actually use the same camera marker here where we pick the character, but this time I'm going to actually add in a billboard here. I'm going to go to Shapes Text, add in a billboard. I'm going to set the paint of it to black, and I'm going to call this Game Over Screen. All right, and now I'm going to go ahead and one-shot this over to my Bear 2. That'll bring it over, and then I have a little billboard that I can manipulate. All right. So billboards are useful. You can actually put images on them, or just use them as like text. And so what we can do is we could go into a program like Paint or PowerPoint and actually create our own image if we wanted to, with some game text here, and then actually implement that. So we're actually going to do that. So I just opened up Paint, and I'm just going to go ahead and input a text here. Let's maybe resize this. That seems like a fine size. Zoom out here. So I've got right now 1917 by 1081 pixels. So I'm gonna just make this, a little bit less. Something that'll look good on the screen. Maybe like around an 800 by 600 type ratio. All right. I can zoom back in, and I'm just going to go ahead and fill this paint with black, and I'm going to put some red text that says Game Over. And then we'll say press, and then we want a key to restart. So maybe I'll press R to restart. And so we'll make a restart function in here. So Game Over, press R to restart. Let's increase the size of this. And then let's see. And I could have done this with text objects in Alice as well. Kind of center this a little bit, but sometimes it's easier to make like screens like this show up. What we will do is display your final score. Yeah, so maybe let's add that in. So Game Over, your final score is, and then we'll actually leave in an option to, we'll leave like a little bit of a space here to put a text object that has the score there. And then press R to restart. So there we go. We've got our picture here. And so I can go ahead and save this, and I'm just gonna put it in my downloads and save it as, actually Game Over screen. Yep, and then we'll hit save. All right. And so now I have that in my downloads, and I can go back into Alice, and I can change now the front paint to an image. And if I go into downloads again and select the Game Over screen, you can see it actually imports that text into it. All right, now I want to resize this so that it looks good. All right, and now I want to adjust the camera a little bit to focus in on this. All right, let's see. All right, remember the bears are going to be opaque, so we don't have to worry about that. Let's just increase the width of this a little bit. If you want to unlock these, you can make it so we can keep the width or the height at 6. Oh, that didn't work. 6, and keep the width at like maybe 12. Maybe that stretched it a little bit too much. 10. All right. And once you have a good place, let's go ahead and add a camera marker, and we'll call this game over. All right, remember these bears are going to be opaque. And let's just add in one more text object here. So we're going to add in a text model, and we'll call this final score. And final score, let's go ahead and one shot procedure, move and orient to game over screen. That moves the text object down there. Oops. Okay, and so now we can see we have that hello final score here. So this one, let's change the color to match this red. And then let's go ahead and just reposition this object to appear. I'm moving it in and out actually. Real quick, we'll set the opacity of this to 0. You can grab this final score and slide it over. Turn this back on. Maybe have to adjust it a little bit manually. Oh. Let's see. I think I moved it back a little bit too far. Move it forward again. All right, there we go. And then we'll make sure the camera still looks good from here so we can see your score is. All right, and so this final score thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually set its vehicle here to the game over screen. And so what that'll allow me to do is now kind of move these ones together. Let's see. So if I slide this over just a little bit, we're looking pretty good here. All right, and now I can just maybe resize this a little bit, but we're just going to set the text to 0 initially and kind of see how that looks. That looks fine. And then we'll have this variable update at the end of the game. All right, so now we've kind of got our game over set up. Let's go over into our code and let's finalize what happens when game over is happening. So in my first method, let's first off call game over. All right. And then in this game over method, what we're going to first do is move the camera to move and orient to the game over camera marker. And then we're going to take final score, is this, and set its value equal to custom text string of nothing plus the whole number score. All right. And so let's see what happens. Oh, actually, you can see it's in the background there. So let's do something about that first. So let's go ahead and initially, let's set the opacity of this to be 0. And let's also set the opacity of this final score to 0 as well. So we can't see those when we start our game. We just get the character select and everything looks good. We don't see anything over here, right? Okay, so what I want to do now is whenever the timer hits 0 and this method gets called, we're going to have to go ahead and set final scores opacity back to 1 so we can see that. And then also we're going to set the game over screen's opacity to 1 as well. And let's make these happen with a duration of 0 and duration of 0. All right, and so let's just see what this looks like now when we run out of time. And there we have it. It slides over to our game over. Your final score is 0. Press to restart. So let's actually score a point and see what we need to fix. So if I go here, right, and I get 1 point, and then the time ends, it says the score is 1. So that's looking good. We got the value set. We got the camera showing up, and everything looks good. Nothing's moving anymore, and we know all that. All right. So it does say press R to restart. So I do want to add in a little bit of a kind of a restart functionality to this. But for right now, let's actually do one more thing before we do anything else. Let's actually add in a power up right now. So one of the things is this game, one of the things this game is kind of lacking right now is it doesn't get any harder in terms of difficulty, right? The penguins are pretty easy to chase around. They don't run any faster or slower. So what I'd like to do is that every time we scare a penguin, it actually gets a little bit faster, right? And so instead of us being able to chase the same one down, maybe each time we scare it, it moves a little bit further away and runs a little bit faster. Okay, so we're gonna have to change the runaway function in our flyer class and add a parameter. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm gonna add a parameter, actually not a parameter, sorry. We're gonna have to add a speed variable into our flyer. So this will be a property, and it'll be its speed. All right. So this will be a decimal number, which we can set to initially just be something like, I don't know, like 2. We can see how that looks. Right. So just a variable. And what we'll do is while, here where it says move forward 6, we just use 6 as a random number. What we're going to do is we're going to move forward by the speed amount. Actually, no, let's actually, all right, so let's actually keep this at 6, but let's make the duration equal to speed. And each time the penguin is scared, which is each time the runaway function happens, let's actually reduce the speed by a factor of 2. So let's set speed equal to speed, and then we'll use math divided by 2. And so each time we scare the same penguin, let's test this out, see if it works. So the first time, it runs away kind of slow. The next time, see how that one moved a lot faster, and maybe one more scare, even faster. You can see it's kind of zoom off there. We're actually kind of, let me increase the time here so we can see that a little bit better. I'm going to turn the time back up to 25 while we test this. So just for example, I scare these two, right? They both kind of go off at the same speed. Now if I scare these two, watch, that one's going slow. That one went really fast. If I scare this a third time, he goes even faster, right? And so each time the penguins are getting more powerful. And actually to kind of maybe adjust for that, let's even make them go a further distance as well. So we'll set the speed equal to speed divided by 2. And so let's make this duration, this distance, also be a factor. Now, since I'm decreasing speed, the variable called speed, since I'm making that speed variable actually depend on time, it actually feels a little bit weird to call that variable speed with how we're using it, since we're actually, you would think reducing the speed would make it slower. And so let's actually change this around a little bit. Let's go ahead and rename this variable. Instead of speed, let's rename this as move time. So now it makes a little bit more sense each time we decrease the move time. And then let's add another procedure for, or another decimal number for move distance. And we'll set this also equal to initially be maybe 3. All right, and so now we can say, let's move forward the move distance in the move time. And then we can set move distance equal to its current value. And then we're not going to multiply it by 2 because it would get really fast, really quickly. I'll show you what happens. It's like exponential growth here. So after we interact with one, still kind of chilling. It's not super scared yet, but then it goes to distance, and then let's watch this one here. See how far he went, and then if I can chase him down one more time, he's gonna zoom off into the unknown. So it's that definitely makes it challenging, but it also is a little bit too much. So maybe instead we'll just use addition instead of this times 2. Maybe we'll do plus, and maybe each time let's just add 3 to it. So it starts out at 3, and then it's 6, then it's 9. So it's going a little bit further each time. If you think the time is moving too quickly, you can just divide by like maybe 1.5 or something like that. So it's not quite as much of a division, but this should work pretty well. All right, so now we've kind of scaled up our enemies in a way. We've made them get faster and faster as we go, and we have the game over condition. So the last thing that I wanted to do with this before adding the restart function and playing with a few other things is I wanted to add in a power up. Right. So as of right now, the bear doesn't really have any sort of power ups. It moves the same speed the whole game, but the penguins are getting faster and faster, and so herein lies the problem. We want the polar bear to be able to collect some other objects, maybe have the user be able to maybe either click on things or run through objects in order to increase their speed. So what we're going to do is we are going to add in a power up object. And so what powers up a bear? Let's see. Bears probably would eat bananas, but let's get something else here. All right, I think the Coca-Cola bottle, since it is a polar bear, makes sense. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add this cola bottle in. And the cola bottle is going to be our object. Let's resize it a little bit. All right, this is going to be our power up. So if the user runs through this cola bottle, then it will become powered up. It will become faster. All right. So what we're going to do is we are going to write some behaviors for this cola bottle to also control its function as well. So just like we added the flyer, we added a variable for the speed. Let's also add a variable for the speed of the bear. Decimal number, and we'll set it to 0.25. I'm not sure what it should be set to initially. Let's look. All right, so let's see. In the run function, the bear is moving a distance of 2, and the time it takes is this. So what we're going to do to increase the speed is just increase the distance that it moves each time. So instead of distance being 2 here, which I think is only used one time right here, I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this variable. We don't need that. And I'm going to replace this with speed, that property that I just made in here. All right, so let's start this at 2. Now it'll be exactly the same as it was before. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add in the mouse event listener to actually have it so that when I click on the cola bottle, it actually does something. Right now it doesn't do anything. And so way we'll do this is we'll add event listener mouse, and then we want to use a click on object listener. All right, so I'll bring that up a little bit. I'm going to bring it up to the top here. It doesn't really matter where it is in terms of the other ones. It's just easiest, I think, to see when it's up here. So this has set of visuals and multiple event policies like the other one. So what we want to do here is we want to set what objects are we allowed to click on. And so in this case, we're just going to have the one bottle be the item that we can click on. But if we had multiple objects we wanted to click on, we would do that there. For multiple events, we'll go ahead and ignore them, which means if they like double click it, it won't power us up twice. So what we'll do is when they click on the Coke bottle, we will set the opacity of that Coke bottle to 0. That'll make it invisible. So it'll make it fade out. So let's just look at what happens with just that one line of code. We can go over here and we can click and it disappears, right? So I can't click on it again. And then we're going to go ahead and set that speed variable up, which was at 2 and is controlling how fast we go. We're going to set that variable so we're going to select var, set the speed to its current value, which is going to be under, you actually can't get it from the drop-down list because we're not a Quadruped class. So we have to use the function get speed, right? So set speed to its current speed, and then we'll multiply this, or let's maybe just add to it. Well, we'll just add 2, otherwise we'll get really fast if we have multiple power-ups. So the penguins can now get faster, but the bear can also, we're moving around here. The bear can also get faster. So after I drink the cola, I move a little bit faster. And so now, yes, the penguins will get a little bit faster each time we scare them. But the bear is also going to be able to power up as well to get a little bit faster as well. All right, and then the game ends and we get that. And so it's looking pretty good. So tomorrow what we'll do is we'll make it so that the Coke bottle appears randomly in the screen, that the user has to click it. And we'll maybe have to adjust this so it doesn't get powered up quite so much. And then we will add in some, probably some like sound effects and music and things like that. But I think I'm going to do that Friday. So I think tomorrow we'll just make the power up a little bit more accessible. We'll work on a restart function, and then so that we can actually hit the restart key and play again. And then we'll also have some sort of a bad guy that the bear has to avoid. And if the bear hits it, maybe it's either automatic game over, or maybe they lose like 5 seconds of time or something like that. The other thing we could do with this power up if we wanted to is we could not only just increase the speed, but we could have maybe another power up that if the user clicks that power up, it gives them bonus time or something like that. So they can expand their time from more than 30 seconds or something like that. All right, we're going to wrap this up here. I've posted the finished code of mine on Schoology. So if you didn't get something, you can look at it on Schoology and see it there. But yeah, otherwise, that's all I need you guys to do for today. So good job, and I'll check in with you guys tomorrow.